Hello again, and part two. Okay, next we have Time Cop, another great Van Damme film from when he was in his the height of his popularity, making films that cost millions of dollars. You know, this is when he was A-list. Directed by Peter Hyams. Ron Silver, great as the villain of the piece. Van Damme going back in time, basically to stop this corrupt government official from using time travel to further his own advancement to become president. Some really good fight scenes. Van Damme is. This is when his personal problems started taking over his life, but as far as his films go, this is one of his greatest. Time Cop. Next we have, this is when his career was going a little bit downhill. The arrogance was starting to come in. People were starting to think, oh, Van Damme, he's a bit of a jerk. This was really his last really successful film. Street Fighter. I like this cover. This is the Extreme Edition, which comes with special features. Street Fighter 4 trailer, that's the game. The making of Street Fighter the movie. Outtakes, deleted scenes, video game sequences. There's a bit about Street Fighter the movie, the game, and there's a commentary track with the director Steven D'Souza. So I actually don't mind this film. I think it's entertaining. To me, it's like the Dolph Lundgren film Master of the Universe. Everyone seems to think it's a big joke, but I actually think it's a decent action film. Street Fighter Extreme Edition, starring Van Damme as William F. Guile, and of course Raul Julia in his last role as M. Bison. And we have Sudden Death, another collaboration between Van Damme and Peter Hyams, who directed Time Cop. This was really the last big Van Damme film. I don't think it was too successful, but it was the last big Van Damme release. This is when studios weren't really wanting a piece of him. He was difficult to work with. I think he was the drugs and that, you know. But this is, to me, still a really good Van Damme film. Really good action film. Villains that you love to hate. Van Damme plays a hero that you're just rooting for all the way through. A father whose kids are trapped in a ice hockey arena, and he's the fire chief. Basically, it's Die Hard in an ice hockey arena. That's how everyone describes it, and that's what it is. And this is when things start going a bit wrong for Van Damme. His first directing effort, written by him and Frank Dukes, who he played in Bloodsport. It's also the last time you'll see him do a decent version of his famous spin kick, apart from in The Expendables 2, which I don't know. Anyway, The Quest. What can we say? It's basically about a fighting tournament. It's Bloodsport on a big budget. Roger Moore is in it. Roger Moore in an interview said this was the worst film he'd ever made. I think it's a bit harsh, because I mean, it's better than at least two of the Bond films, but I'm not a Bond fan. The Quest, and not a bad film really. It's just nothing great, you know. It's watchable. Then we get Maximum Risk. Van Damme and the lovely Natasha Henstridge from Species. Not one of his greatest films. This is when the rot was starting to set in. His films were now becoming not great. They were just either good or okay. Maximum Risk. Double Team, again, it's okay. It's not great. Mickey Rourke plays the villain. Double Team. Knockoff, which is one of his worst films, I think. Rob Schneider's in it. He's not funny. The story doesn't make sense. This is when American martial arts films were trying to do the Hong Kong style action and they weren't really pulling off that greatly. Knockoff, it's just a kind of irritating film. It's a bit of a so what film. Not a lot really happens in it, but it's got a behind the scenes featurette on the DVD. And then we've got Legionnaire, which is actually a really good film. Not a martial arts film, but it's about a guy who joins the Foreign Legion, obviously, and trials and tribulations he faces along the way, the friendships he makes, and how it all ends. There is a version of this, the Lionsgate release, which has a decent amount of special features, including a commentary by the director, but it's kind of hard to track down because it's got the exact same cover as this one, so whenever you try and get it on Amazon or whatever, you just end up getting this one. But decent film. It's Legionnaire. Then we have Universal Soldier: The Return. I like this film. It's entertaining. As a sequel to Universal Soldier, it doesn't really deliver because it hasn't really got a lot in common. It doesn't really say what happened to the female lead in Universal Soldier. Did Van Damme marry her? He's got a daughter in this one. Is it her daughter? Not a lot's really made of that. He plays the same character, Luke Devereaux, and Michael Jai White plays the villain, and he's really good. It's the first time I saw Michael Jai White, and I was really impressed with what I saw, and I still am impressed with him. He's a great martial artist. Special features: there's an interview with Jean-Claude Van Damme, Mick Rogers, and Michael Jai White. There's a featurette, Looking Back, Moving Forward, Van Damme interview with highlights of his previous films. There's a trailer, and there's a featurette which I've seen, which is really impressive, of an on-set workout with Michael Jai White. Basically just Michael Jai White doing loads of fancy kicks and lifting weights and boxing and basically looking really cool and making me jealous. That's Universal Soldier: The Return. Because we haven't seen the last of Universal Soldier. Next we have Van Damme: Desert Heat. Not one of my favourite Van Damme films. It's okay. It was originally meant to be directed by the guy who directed Rocky, John G. Avildsen, but I don't know what happened to that because it ended up being directed by Danny Mulroon. Van Damme plays a guy who wants to commit suicide because he's sick of his life. He has to ask permission from his friend who once saved his life for some reason, but he ends up getting embroiled in the happenings of this small town which has been overrun by bad guys, and he finds a reason to live in the inhabitants of this town, the weird inhabitants, including Pat Morita from Karate Kid. It's a quirky film. It's a bit strange, but it's alright. Desert Heat, otherwise known as Coyote Moon, otherwise known as... It's got three names. Coyote Moon, Desert Heat, and something else. And then we have Replicant. Now this is a good film. Directed by Ringo Lam. Van Damme plays the hero and the villain. Basically he plays a serial killer and they clone him to kind of get insight into his mind, and his clone is torn between being part of a serial killer and also being his own person. A really good Van Damme film. Replicant. It's got some good special features. It's got extra scenes, deleted scenes, and stuff. But the best is an audio commentary by Jean-Claude Van Damme, which is kind of amusing because he sounds bored all the way through it, and near the end he goes on a bit of a rant about how his career is not too great at the moment. So this is the point where Van Damme was kind of hating his own career, and his fans were kind of thinking, yeah, he's not making very good films at the moment, but you know, if you're a fan you stick by him. His films aren't awful, they're just not up to the standard of his old films. Then we have The Order, which is okay, got some good action in it. It's okay. I don't know what else to say about The Order, it's just okay. Then we have his all-time worst film, absolutely terrible film, Derailed, which just got a featurette on the disc.